Good evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Shan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and one of the big developments that happened today was the dastardly terror attacks in Paris. We'll be getting you all the latest on that and the other stories as well. But first, the headlines that we're tracking right now. The Islamic State claims responsibility for the deadly Paris terror attacks that left over 120 dead. France vows to strike back at IS militants after multiple strikes leaves Paris in a state of shock. From Narendra Modi to Barack Obama, world leaders condemn the attacks. Modi urges UN to define terrorism and act against such groups. Security beefed up around the world post the Paris attacks. Experts claim the strikes resemble the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai 8 years ago. Security stepped up in Turkey's Antalya for the G20 summit on Sunday. Terrorism and migrant crisis to top summit's agenda amid reports of US airstrikes killing IS leader Jihadi John. And Nitish Kumar, formally elected as the leader of the Grand Alliance Legislature Party, paves way for his third consecutive term as the Chief Minister of Bihar. Our top story this evening, at least 127 people were killed in the attacks in Paris that took place late on Friday night. Another 200 were injured in multiple strikes across the city. Terming the attacks as unprecedented, French President François Hollande blamed Islamic State for the attacks. The group officially issued a statement confirming its involvement.
At least 8 militants, all wearing suicide vests, wrought unprecedented violence on the streets of Paris on Friday night. In the bloodiest attacks in Europe since the murder train bombings in 2004, the attackers targeted a concert hall, a sports stadium and restaurant, killing in hundreds.
Le temps qu'il raccroche, je traversais et directement boum, ça a explosé devant moi. Donc tout est parti en éclats, j'ai ressenti les projectiles et tout, et moi je suis parti, j'ai carrément voltigé.
The deadliest attack targeted the Bataclan Concert Hall, a short walk from Charlie Hebdo's office, the site of another deadly shootout by militants in January. Gunmen took many hostages inside the concert hall before the police forces stormed in.
Au niveau du bar, donc on a entendu comme des pétards, pour entrer dans la cru que c'était des pétards. On s'est retourné et là on a vu moi j'ai vu deux jeunes, pas plus de 25 ans avec des Kalachnikov.
French President François Hollande said the needle of suspicion is on the Islamic State group. French ministers and top members of the military met on Saturday for an emergency defense council meeting to discuss the fallout of the attacks. Announcing a 3-day mourning, Hollande vowed to take strong action against the militant group.
Mes chers compatriotes, ce qui s'est produit hier à Paris et à Saint-Denis, près du Stade de France, c'est un acte de guerre. Et face à la guerre, le pays doit prendre les décisions appropriées.
France is part of the anti-terror coalition which is currently involved in airstrikes against Islamic State's bases across Syria and Iraq. The Paris attacks took place within days of Beirut bombing and a Russian aircraft crash, both claimed by the terror group. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, India expressed solidarity with France, condemning the series of gruesome attacks in Paris. Prime Minister Narendra Modi termed it an attack on humanity and urged the UN to expedite the process to define terrorism. President Pranab Mukherjee and Vice President Mohammad Habib Ansari also expressed anguish over the strikes. They said that such strikes will only strengthen the resolve of the international community to fight against the senseless violence. The External Affairs Ministry is keeping a close watch on the situation in Paris, as it is in constant touch with the Indian mission there. No Indian has been reported dead so far.
मैं ये चाहता हूं कि शब्दों के माध्यम से ही इसकी भर्त्सना नहीं होनी चाहिए, ये इतना ही पर्याप्त नहीं है। बल्कि आतंकवाद के खिलाफ सारे देश को एकजुट होकर इसका मुकाबला करने की आवश्यकता है और एक फोरम पर इस आतंकवाद से लड़ने के लिए विश्व के सारे देशों को आने की आवश्यकता है.
We share the pain of those who have been killed in the attacks. And if India can help anyway, India will do it.
The world leaders as well joined to condemn the Paris terror attacks. Here's more.
The world saw in shock and horror as the ghastly events unfolded in Paris. Leaders from Australia to America publicly declared solidarity with the French people, describing the events as an attack on all humanity. Neighbour Germany vowed to help France hunt down the perpetrators, calling the attack a threat to European values.
Dieser Angriff auf die Freiheit gilt nicht nur Paris. Meint uns alle und trifft uns alle. Und deswegen werden wir auch alle gemeinsam die Antwort geben.
The countries sitting around the table today have almost all experienced the same pain, the same sorrow, the same shock over the last weeks. Europeans, Arabs, East and West, the international community is all affected by terrorism and those that try to divide us and spread panic. And the best response to this is actually coming together.
The US too held out what it called all possible assistance for France to respond to the attacks.
This is an attack not just on Paris, it's an attack not just on the people of France, but this is an attack on all of humanity and the universal values that we share. We stand prepared and ready to provide whatever assistance that the government and the people of France need to respond.
All foreign embassies in France have activated emergency mechanisms to verify if any of their citizens were killed in the attacks. China too expressed willingness to join France and the international community in stepping up security and combating terrorism.
习近平指出，中国一贯反对一切形式的恐怖主义，愿同法国及国际社会一道，加强安全领域合作，共同打击恐怖主义，维护各国人民生命安全。
Arab nations continued to call for stronger and unified stance to fight terrorism, stressing that terror is detached of all religions or ethics.
هذا العمل الذي قامت به منظمات إرهابية عمل غير إنساني، عمل إجرامي، عمل بربري، لا يتماشى ولا مع أي قيم أو خلق أو ديانات، ونحن نستنكر هذا بشدة. والمملكة العربية السعودية كما تعلمون.
The rampage in Paris on Friday was the deadliest in France in decades. Buildings dressed in French colours and supporters holding vigils to join Frenchmen grieve their loss. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And let's go across to strategic affairs analyst Sushant Sareen to help us understand. Sushant, as far as this particular attack is concerned, I mean, the magnitude is really unfathomable, and we'll talk about the similarities to Mumbai and our security situation in India a little later in the show. But first up, let's talk about Paris and the fact that such an attack, I mean, how does a state prepare for it, and what do you think was the purpose behind these attacks, to spread fear among ordinary people?
Well, I think the purpose was very clear. It was, in a manner of speaking, a tit for tat. France has been in the crosshairs of fundamentalist organizations, be it Al-Qaeda, be it the IS, be it some of these other guys, because of the kind of actions that the French have taken, whether in Africa or in Syria for that matter. France is a member of the coalition which the US has cobbled together, and France has been very emphatic about sticking to its secular principles and what they call the French values and cultural, the cultural ethos of France, and they've been pretty uncompromising on that, and that's been a matter on which many of the fundamentalist Islamic organizations have taken a beef with. So I think France has been in the crosshairs, and this kind of an attack was only to be expected. Perhaps the magnitude, as you very rightly put it, the magnitude is is quite monumental, and I think the impact of this attack will be equally monumental. I don't think the French can hunker down and hope that the storm can pass them by. I don't think the rest of Europe can say, okay, fine, this is a uniquely French problem and we don't have anything to do with it.
Right.
I think this is the rudest wake-up call which the Europeans have got. I don't know whether they'll still wake up or not, but if they don't, then I think this entire European construct is now going to be facing its existential threat.
Absolutely. Sushant, let's also try to understand now, as far as these particular and the nature of the attacks itself are concerned. We had that shooting earlier this year in France at the Charlie Hebdo office, and the fact that automatic weapons were used. I mean, automatic weapons are one usually associates with strife torn areas, but if they're that easily available in France, and the fact that it's such a well-coordinated attack, obviously pointing to perhaps an intelligence failure. In terms of just the security scenario, how do you see it play out from here on?
No, of course, I think it's a no-brainer to say that there has been some degree of failure of intelligence, but no intelligence agency in the world can actually prevent all sorts of attacks. Even the terrorists learn how to evade surveillance by the intelligence agencies. We talk a lot about the Americans and how there's not been a single major attack in the US after 9/11, but we often forget that the Americans have been extremely lucky. There have been at least half a dozen really big attacks which just simply failed, including the idiot bomber from Pakistan, the underwear bomber, and a whole lot of other of these characters. Those attacks didn't take off. So the Americans were lucky, the French haven't been. And to expect that the intelligence agencies can have kind of a saturation coverage, I think that's asking for too much. So it is, of course, an intelligence failure. But I think the French, unlike most other countries, I think the French system will learn from this failure and try and cover up some of the loose ends. As far as the kind of weapons which were used in these attacks, it's partly a problem of the way the European Union has been constructed. And once you cross through the easiest point of crossing, I think you can smuggle in weapons inside the EU, because after that it's seamless travel. And terrorist organizations have mastered the art of deception, have mastered the art of hiding these things and bringing them perhaps piecemeal. But the very fact that they could mount such a big coordinated attack, I think in itself speaks a lot for the kind of organization which was behind this kind of an attack. And equally important, because normally, being able to coordinate such an attack and putting in place all those components which go into a successful terrorist attack is not as easy as one would like to imagine. So the fact that they managed to do it, I think is something which should cause a lot of concern.
All right, Sushant, I'll ask you to stay on, because we want to focus on the fact that as far as India is concerned, what's been happening over here, and there's an interesting parallel about this attack to the Mumbai 26/11 attacks as well. And in fact, Mumbai, Delhi and other key cities in India have been put on high alert after the attacks today. Police and state governments have been asked to beef up security, including at foreign embassies and consulates. Security was also stepped up in the national capital, especially outside the French embassy, government buildings and international airport. Vigilance being kept around prominent hotels, malls and markets in the national capital. Security is being upgraded in and around crowded markets in the city and office buildings in the Lithium zones, which house offices of several ministries. But the terror strikes have been described as the copycat version of the 26/11 Mumbai attack by security experts. In a striking similarity with the Lashkar-e-Taiba strike in Mumbai, gunmen moved around the city to launch coordinated strikes and indiscriminate firing to cause maximum damage. Over 160 people were killed in November 2008 when terrorists stormed the luxury hotels, the main railway station and a Jewish center and other sites in Mumbai. The experts view the attack as a revenge by the Islamic State against a global offensive on its strongholds.
जो फायरिंग का इंसिडेंट हुआ है, उससे मुझे, जो मैंने बंबई में 26 नवंबर को आतंकी हमला चलाया था, उसकी याद आ रही है। क्योंकि अगर दोनों टेरर अटैक अगर हम कंपेयर करें तो एक बात सिमिलर है, और पहली बात जो सिमिलर है कि इनोसेंट पीपल को टारगेट करना, जिस तरह से उन लोगों, तमाम इनोसेंट लोगों को उन्होंने कैप्टिव किया था, इसका मतलब है कि आज भी दुनिया में उनको आतंक फैलाना है।
And let's go across to Sushant Sari, strategic affairs expert who's here with us. Sushant, the comparison to Mumbai 26/11 might not be fair, but that is perhaps the only parallel in history that we have to this particular attack. And it seems that this is a modus operandi that is becoming more and more convenient for terrorists to follow. Just target random targets in cities in a well-coordinated manner and inflict maximum damage.
Yeah, and that is actually the source of worry. But, you know, every terrorist attack will have a resemblance with another terrorist attack. So, for example, you had a school in Peshawar being attacked by terrorists. They killed 150, 160 kids. You had a similar attack a few years before that in Russia, where about another 200 odd kids were killed and actually very brutally massacred.
Yes,
so you know, this is the game that the terrorists play, that their whole target is to create this huge, propaganda by carrying out such attacks, instill fear. And the easiest way to do this is to target civilians, say in a restaurant, in a hotel, in a cinema hall, or as in this present case, in a concert which was taking place. And, you know, you can get the maximum bang for the buck. I hate to use this term, but you get the maximum bang for the buck because you go into a place which has about 2,000 people, you fire indiscriminately, blow a couple of bombs, and you get the kind of desired effect that you were looking for in the first place. And the problem is that how does any country protect every square inch of its territory? So yes, you can try and preempt these attacks through much better intelligence, but that's not going to be foolproof. And to my mind, the only way you can actually defeat this phenomena is by striking at the roots of this phenomena. Unfortunately, I don't think sufficient attention has been paid to where this whole phenomena of terrorism is emanating from and how to counter it both militarily as well as ideologically. I think that has been the greatest failure in this whole war on terrorism.
Absolutely, and indeed world leaders would be meeting in Vienna to discuss the Islamic State threat, and I'm sure this entire attack has given that conversation a whole new dimension. So Sushant Sari, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand the implications of this terror attack in Paris a little better. Meanwhile, security has been stepped up in the Turkish city of Antalya, the host for the G20 summit on starting Sunday. French President Francois Hollande has cancelled his participation after the deadly Paris attacks. It's believed that the issue of terror will now dominate the two-day summit.
After wrapping up his maiden visit to UK on Friday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will head to Turkey to attend the G20 summit. Terrorism is one of the issues that are likely to top his agenda, especially in the backdrop of the Paris terror strikes. As world leaders congregate in this Turkish city Antalya, Friday night's terror attacks, ongoing war in Syria, and the need for strengthening the crackdown against terrorism will take the center stage at the summit. The migrant crisis in Europe, which is also a fallout of the terror outfit's growing influence in Middle East, will also dominate talks. Ahead of the summit, host country's President Tayyip Erdogan condemned the attack.
Ülkem ve milletim adına mevkidaşım Sayın Hollande ve Fransız halkına kayıpları için taziyelerimi sunuyor. Yaralılara acil şifalar diliyorum. Bildiğiniz gibi
French President François Hollande has cancelled his participation at the summit after the attacks. He will be represented by French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius and Finance Minister Michel Sapin. Fabius sought to strengthen the global coalition's offensive against the Islamic State group.
C'est précisément de voir concrètement comment nous pouvons accentuer encore la coordination internationale dans la lutte contre Daesh. Et évidemment, c'est à mettre en relation avec tout ce qui se passe dans le monde. Donc il était important que je sois ici. J'ai réuni un certain nombre
Security measures were beefed up in Antalya in the wake of the attacks. Some 12,000 soldiers and police have been deployed. The Turkish military has placed a round-the-clock air defense system to prevent possible missile or drone attacks amid threats from IS. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the airstrikes carried out by the US in Syria probably killed Jihadi John, a key Islamic State leader. Pentagon said that they're evaluating the effectiveness of the strike.
Jihadi John, the masked IS terrorist seen in number of videos executing hostages, was believed to have been killed in US airstrikes. But Pentagon is yet to officially confirm his death in the strike in Syria's Raqqa town.
It's still a little early, but we are reasonably certain that we killed the target that we intended to kill, which is Jihadi John. It'll take some time, as it always does, for us to be able to finally formally declare that we know that we've had success.
US and Britain welcomed the strikes, saying Jihadi John's death, if confirmed, would be a big blow to Islamic State's image and prestige.
We are still assessing the results of this strike, but the terrorists associated with Daesh need to know this. Your days are numbered, and you will be defeated.
I've always said that we would do whatever was necessary, whatever it took, to track down Mwazi and to stop him taking the lives of others. We have been working with the United States literally around the clock to track him down. This was a combined effort, and the contribution of both our countries was essential. Mwazi is a barbaric murderer.
Jihadi John appeared in several beheading videos released by the Islamic State. He appeared dressed in black and masked as part of the execution video of US journalist James Foley in August 2014. Another American journalist, Stephen Sotloff, and American aid worker Abdul Rahman Kasig, British aid workers David Haynes and Alan Henning, and Japanese photojournalist Kenji Goto. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for a very short break. On the other side, India bundles out South Africa for 214 runs on the day one of the second test. Posts a strong reply in their first innings. All that and more on the other side.
Today we will discuss why the Supreme Court quashed the government's decision to provide reservation to the Jat community.
We feel that the Jat community is not a backward. That is why we went to the Supreme Court and filed our petition against that decision.
Political strong होने से उसकी जाति पे जो आरक्षण का जो पैमाना उस पे फर्क नहीं पड़ता.
Jat included in this. How can other caste be suffer? Or on what ground?
Watch Law of the Land Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, the Grand Alliance today elected Chief Minister designate Nitish Kumar as the leader of its legislative party. The newly elected legislators of the JDU, RJD and Congress met to elect him, paving way for Nitish to return as Chief Minister for a third successive time. Nitish Kumar will take oath on the 20th of November.
The Grand Alliance in Bihar has formally picked Nitish Kumar as the leader of its legislature party on Saturday. JDU President Sharad Yadav, General Secretary K.C. Tyagi, RJD's Lalu Prasad Rabri Devi and Congress's C.P. Joshi were among the leaders present at the meeting held at Legislative Council of Bihar.
अभी मिशन बाकी है जो बिहार की जनता ने दिया है वो है देश के लिए तो देश में भी ये जो बिहार की जनता ने राह दिखाई है उस राह को पकड़ करके आगे देश में भी चलना है.
The decision came hours after Nitish submitted his resignation to Governor Ramnath Kovind to set the process of forming the next government rolling. The governor urged him to continue as caretaker chief minister till a new government is formed.
महागठबंधन के विधानमंडल दल ने जो निर्णय लिया था की सूचना दी गई, पत्र सौंपा गया और तदोपरांत महामहिम राज्यपाल महोदय ने मुझे सरकार बनाने के लिए आमंत्रित किया है और 20 तारीख को 2 बजे दिन में गांधी मैदान पटना में शपथ ग्रहण समारोह आयोजित किया जाएगा.
Nitish Kumar will take oath as Chief Minister on November 20th along with the 36-member Council of Ministers. There will be 16 ministers from Lalu Prasad's RJD, 15 from the JDU and 5 from the Congress in the new government. The Grand Alliance routed the BJP in the recently held assembly elections in the state. RJD emerged as the single largest party with 80 assembly seats, followed by the JDU with 71 and the Congress with 27 seats. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
So the Congress Party's year-long celebrations to commemorate the 125th birth anniversary of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ended on Saturday with a big public meeting in Delhi. Addressing the meeting, Congress President Sonia Gandhi and Vice President Rahul Gandhi blamed the BJP and the RSS for creating an atmosphere of intolerance. Former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh also attacked the BJP for trying to defame the Nehruvian idea of India.
It was a show of strength by Congress on the 125th birth anniversary of Jawaharlal Nehru. At a party conclave at the Indira Gandhi Indoor Stadium, Congress President Sonia Gandhi took on the Modi government, accusing it of engaging in divisive politics. She urged her party members to fight this politics and invoked Nehru by saying that he wanted a secular India with a modern outlook. Her son, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, also blamed BJP for dividing the society on the religious lines.
मुझे ये कहने में कोई संकोच नहीं कि आज जो भी सेक्युलर मूल्यों का विरोध करता है वो सिर्फ नेहरू जी का नहीं बल्कि महात्मा गांधी, उनके तमाम साथियों और दूसरे महान नेताओं का भी विरोध कर रहा है.
आज हिंदुस्तान की जनता देख रही है और कह रही है कि अच्छे दिन नहीं आए, एक धर्म को दूसरे धर्म से लड़ाया जा रहा है, छोटे बच्चों को जलाया जा रहा है और हमारे प्रधानमंत्री इसके बारे में कुछ नहीं कह रहे हैं.
Former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh alleged that Modi government has no roadmap for development of the country.
विकास और सोशल जस्टिस एक ही चीज के दूसरे नाम. विकास अगर गरीबों तक नहीं पहुंचता, विकास अगर पिछड़े लोगों के डेवलपमेंट के बारे में नहीं सोचता, अगर शेड्यूल्ड कास्ट और शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स की वेलबीइंग के बारे में नहीं सोचता, तो वो विकास सही मानों में विकास नहीं है.
This was the first party conclave since the Grand Alliance's victory in the recent Bihar Assembly elections. Partnering JDU and RJD, Congress made significant gains in the state. It has provided a fresh lifeline to the party, which has been battling poll debacle since the Lok Sabha elections last year. Shyam Sundar's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
From sports now, in its advantage India in the second test in Bengaluru, the hosts have made a strong reply in their first innings after bundling South Africa for 214 on day one. The Indian spinners once again dragged the South African batting lineup, picking up 8 wickets. Ravichandran Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja picked up 4 wickets each. Fast bowler Varun Aaron picked up the wicket of Proteas captain Hashim Amla. Playing in his 100th test match, A.B. de Villiers was the top scorer for the visitors with 85 runs. In reply, Indian openers posted 80 runs with Murli Vijay and Shikhar Dhawan looking settled for a big partnership. Well, that's all from us. Goodbye.